Hey, in my last videos, two videos, I guess it was, I talked about how to create a SharePoint document library, and I talked about how to create a list in SharePoint. So the document library is just a place that stores files similar to a OneDrive account, but it is designed to share with a group of people or a group that's doing a workflow. So not only can you have the document in here, but you can add columns. I just put a it's done column and a check mark and a choice column to put choices in. You can do as many columns as you want. I suppose there's some limit, but I've not run into it. So each of these is a file in the document library. And then as a recap to the list, SharePoint list is similar to an Excel file in that you have rows and columns, and the rows are data, the columns are what type of data that is. So instead of keeping track of this list of inspections here in an Excel file, I can keep track of it in a SharePoint list. And then when it's in the list, you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So we're going to use those two concepts along with a few others in Power Automate and Power Apps to create today a report that ends up as a PDF report, completely done, and starts with an app on the phone that is taking in data from a field inspection, or a workflow in the field. So we're going to end up with a PDF report. We're going to start by populating a list like this with data from Power Apps. In a couple intermediate steps, we're going to use the flow. Power Automate used to be called flow. Now each automation inside of there is a flow. So using Power Automate, we're going to make a flow. Now, I wanted to mention before I get started here that we're going to use a couple different things that require some different steps if you're not a premium user than it is if you are. It's really simple to do if you're a premium user, and it's much more complicated to do if you're not. So the easiest way to tell if you're a premium user is to go in, make a new Power Automate, or in a Power Automate, make a new flow. And I just did an instant cloud flow with a manual trigger, and then I chose new step. It's just probably not at the bottom anymore. If I deleted this out, it would show new step. So I typed in convert, and in this instance, there's convert file, which is the one I'm going to display or demo, and the one at the bottom, convert document to PDF. So if you have premium connectors, it's really easy to do. If you don't, I'm going to show you how to do it using OneDrive. So we'll use OneDrive just to put a file in, convert the file, and take it back out, and then delete that temporary file. So it can be done this way, or it can be done premium. The other one is a huge difference. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to connect that thought. So if you come in here and you choose this premium connector, and you don't have the premium license, it'll pop up and ask you if you want to do a 90-day trial, which you can do, but just keep in mind that after 90 days, this will quit working. So I'm going to take you through the free way of using OneDrive to do this. So for the other one, this is the one that makes a big difference in populating a Word document. So if I do the same thing and I type in populate, one of the premium connectors is populate a Word document. This makes it so easy because you can take the data directly out of your list and put it directly into Word without a bunch of other steps. So I'm not going to show you that way. It's just super easy. If you have premium, do it that way. If you don't, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a document library to store a Word file in, and then we'll have to go through some steps to populate that Word file or populate the document library based on the list data. Once that's done, then we can update that Word file to fill it all in where we want it, and then we'll convert it over into the PDF. So it's quite a few extra steps if you don't have the premium connector, but you only have to do it once and it's free. So that's the way I'm going to show it today. All right, so with that in mind, the first thing we need to do is create that list to receive the data. Now I'm going to cheat just a little bit, and this is the way I like to create lists anyway. I am going to go into, see, I want the list tab here. In fact, I think I'm done with the document library, so I'll close that so I don't get confused and go into site contents. And I have an Excel file that I've been playing around with in my pre-stress document library. And it is down under the Rinker Data Exchange Ideas folder, and it's called Rinker Poor Data. So this is the file that I'm going to start with to create a list. I don't know. I just was curious if there is a create list from right here. I don't see that there is. So I'm going to go to make my new list, and I'm going to point it to this file right here. So again, back to site contents, and that's where you start for all lists and making all document libraries. So I want a new list, and I'm going to start from Excel this time. And the reason is I have all these columns already set up. Maybe I should have showed that, but we'll see it here in just a second anyway. So do we want to upload the file, or do we want to get the file that's already on the site? Let's get the file that's already on the site, and it's in that pre-stress and then Rinker Data Exchange folder, Rinker Poor Data. So this is the one I want to start with. Go next. Oh, you don't have any tables in this file is the error that I'm getting. So it says how to fix it. Open the Excel document, select the cells to include, format it as a table, and after saving here, hit refresh. It even gives me an open button. So let's see if that actually works. It does. So here I have columns A through R that contains all of my all the data that I want here, and Power Automate, all the Power Platform really likes Excel data to be in tables rather than just an Excel file. So I'm highlighting my columns, and I'm going to make this into a table. If I thought I needed more columns in the future, if I was gonna use this Excel file ever again, I'm just using it to set up the list. But if I was gonna use it ever again, I might add some extra columns into the table just to make it easier to add columns to later without having to recreate the table. So what am I doing here? Table, format as table, and I'll just pick one, and my table does have headers. Those are the names, so yes. Okay, and it saves it automatically because it opened it from, opened it on the web and from a SharePoint site, so I don't have to hit save. All right, so now I'm back here. I selected it, I formatted it as a table, now I'm gonna refresh. All right, it told me how to fix it, and now it's walking me through the next steps. So select a table from the file, table 1, it's the only table in there. If I was going to use an Excel file like regularly, rather than just to set this up, I would absolutely name the tables because it gets pretty complicated if you're referencing multiple tables. So the title column is just the Rinker job. The number is a poor number, or poor number is a number. I put an example data in here so it would find those things. The mix is a single line of text. Max temp is a number. Max temp 2, 3, 4 are numbers. 5. The test time, single line of text. I want that to be a date time field. It is not going to give me that option. Okay, it is a single line of text then. The test time, that's going to be the same as this one. So let's make, now it gives me the option. I wonder if I can delete that out. Nope. I would have to do that back in the Excel file. Instead, I'm just going to choose a single line of text for test time 2. Probably will change that here in a little bit. So here's a number, here's a number. Those are always going to be numbers. Always numbers for all those. So I'm done. I'll hit next. And now the name of my list is going to be the same as the Excel file name, Rinker Poor Data. What is the list about? This contains the data for each pour on each project. Testing data. Well, and what were those first columns? Temperature, hydration, data. This is just so somebody else coming in here can try and figure out what this is for. Oh, I should also say this is used in Power App and so the reason I'm putting this is used in a Power App and Power Automate Flows. So if somebody someday comes in here and goes, what's this? I never opened this. Maybe somebody never opens it, but it may be being used by something else. So another good way to probably set something like this up is to put in, I don't know, flow-based or something. And that way, anybody who's looking at this in the list of lists would know that it's not a list that gets directly used, it gets used by something else. Show in site navigation, I don't want to show over here, so I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to create the list. Grinds along for a minute, creates the list. And there's my brand new shiny Rinker Poor Data list. So if I wanted to, I can put in new data by clicking here, and it will give me this little form to fill out. All it does is put the fields over there. I can look at any item in the list by clicking the radio button and clicking the I for details or information, and it can show all of them in the form that way, and I can actually change those if I wanted to over here, and then it would update back over here. What I want to do is I want to change those dates, date columns from single lines of text back into dates, because I feel like I'm going to need that. So that's those two columns. Let me see if I can do it from here. So column settings, I want to edit the settings, and single line of text, I want to change that to date and time, include time, yes. Calculated values, no. Save. It may lose the data because of this. Doesn't matter, it was just test data anyway. So then I'm going to do the same thing to this column. Actually, I could do the same thing to this column, test time too. Instead, I'm going to show you a different way, because sometimes you want to do things that it won't let you do in that context box, and this is the way that you can do everything. So test time 2, we're going to change. Go up to the gear up here in the top bar next to your face and hit list settings. This will take you into all of the list settings, including the URL to the list, who has permissions to use the list. If you needed to delete the list, this is where you do it. All kinds of in the weeds stuff, but a lot of it I've never even played with. And then down below, it'll show all your columns, and you can actually change the order of columns. Like if you want them to display differently on that built-in form, you can do that down here. And then you can add columns from existing site columns or create new columns down here as well. We want to change that test time 2 from a single line of text to date and time. So I'm going to click it in here. Now I can choose it. I can do anything about the column, including put validation in there if you're ever doing that, or if you choose a calculation type column, you can put in here how you want to calculate, kind of like an Excel file would, but it is different than Excel, so beware. All right, so I'm going to change that to date and time. Is it required? It's not required. Do I want to default it to today's date? Let me think about that for a second. So this is the test 2. They actually don't have to take the test 2. I'm thinking I don't want to populate that, but I think I do want to populate the other one. So it's going to say loss of data because it might not be formatted correctly. There's no data in it, so I don't care. Test time 1, let's change that one so that it defaults with the current date and time. I'm not sure what the difference here is. Default. So here you could hard code a default value. Instead, I just want to go today's date. So the now function essentially. Hopefully that'll work. We'll see. All right, so I saved that. I'm done with that. I can go back to the list data, and I don't even think I need this anymore. I think I'm done with it. Oh, I do need it for a couple more things. So this has all of the columns for all the data that I need to collect, but I'm going to do a report from this. And I want to keep track if it has been reported. So I'm going to add a column that is a yes, no. Next. I'm going to say report created. Type yes, no, and the default will be no. And then I'm going to add another column for, and I haven't thought this all the way through yet, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to use these or where I'm going to use these, but I'm going to create them just in case here. So report requested. And my thought behind this is we're going to make this into a Power App. In Power Apps, you can make flows inside of Power Apps, but it gets really hairy if you want to try and change something. So I've found it best to create flows outside of Power Apps that the Power App just calls the flow. So again, my fuzzy thought process at this point is I want a button in Power Apps that I click that says create report, and that populates this that just says report requested. Once the report requested data shows up in this list, then Power Automate can see that and run the flow that creates the report. When it's done and verified that it all worked, it can come back here and check report created. And then back in the Power App, it will show that, okay, the report's done. Again, fuzzy thinking, not sure I need it, but I'm going to put it there for now, just so it goes into the Power App. Okay, so now I have the list done, and I want to go into the Power App. So to do that, I go Integrate, Power Apps, Create an App. Now you could go into the Power Apps application or screen or whatever and create a new app from a list. That's going to do the same thing. Or you could create a new app from scratch. If you create a new app from scratch, you have to connect all this data. If you do it from here, going Integrate, Power Apps, Create App, it connects it for you automatically. So what am I going to name this app? I'm going to name it Rinker for Data. And create. So this is going to make a very basic, what they call a 3-screen app. So the first screen will give you an overview of each piece of data. The second screen will give you the details for the one selected. And the third screen will be an edit screen, if it ever opens. And then we'll tweak it to make it a little bit more like what we want instead of what they want or what they think we want. So the pieces on the, well, it's building here. On the pieces on the overview screen, I'll call it the first screen, that I want to be able to look through are going to be arranged by the Rinker project number and then by the POR number. So now we have the screen up in front of us, and you see the Rinker project number here and the POR number here. That's just because they were the first couple columns. So you could arrange your columns back in your list if you know what you want to see here. So this mix number that's the third doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care about that. So I don't want that to be there. I want to get that changed. But this is the way it comes in. And so you'll see over here there's a browse screen, and then the gallery is a container that has these different things in it. So if I click on the container, it'll show this whole size here, show me some code up at the top of what it's doing. And if I click any of these individual elements then, so that's the search icon and it has that located, and then there's these different, I don't know even what you call these, different things that it does for each of these elements. So these are all the pieces that it's built to make this app work. And so like there's a text search box here, that's this whole thing here. Then if I shrink the browse screen and I open up the details screen, that's where it's going to show me the details of all those pieces of data that's been put in there. And notice here that it has the mix, the temps for each of the temperature probes, but it doesn't have all that other stuff I put in there. It'll only put in the first few, and you'll have to do the rest by yourself. And then in the edit screen, same deal. Now, this is where you would edit those things, but it only has the first, I don't know what that is, 10-ish fields. So let's go back to the first one. Let's click on the app itself. I'm going to choose a theme because I hate the blue. I have the blue theme up here and I hate the blue down here, so I don't know why. So I choose red because it feels right with the DOT colors. And it puts my app name at the top. So when you create the app, that's what you can expect to see. It has a search field here. I can type in my search for the project number and then it will pop up based on that. How do I know that? If I click in here to this default search box, let's see, I don't think, so it'd be like the on change, on select. Yeah, they just say false. So I have to go up to the browse gallery and then it shows under items what it's doing here. So it's sorting by columns with the filter Rinker Poor data. So that's my list name that starts with the title field and whatever you've typed in the search box. So they've done the coding for you or the light coding for you. And then it shows if sort descending, then descending, otherwise sort ascending. That's this little sort box here. So I only have one piece of data. I can't show that to you yet. But if I wanted it to, if I wanted it to filter, search, whatever on anything else, I could change this code and then it would change it, change what it's showing you in here. And I've done that on a few different apps. This one's going to work great because it came in with the Rinker number on top, which is how I'll want to search by it anyway. Okay, so next, let's get rid of this mix number. And I'm just going to have to click on these to see which ones they are. So it's not that one. It's not that one. Apparently it's body one. So body one under the text says this item dot mix. I want this item dot something else. We had the poor number. Is there a date? I should remember the columns, right? If I start typing in date, does it find something? Or do I say time? Test time. I want poor time. I don't want the test time. Maybe I didn't create a poor. Oh, great. So, okay, so I have the temperatures and I have the test information, but I have the poor number, but not the poor time. So I need to add that as a column. That's where this video will either go wrong or not. We'll see. I'm just going to leave this blanket saying, hey, there's an error here. You're not telling me what to look for. So let's go back into here. And I really didn't want to do this right now, but we'll just do it on the fly. The reason I don't use spaces is sometimes when you use spaces, it then puts in some like %20 or other characters. And I just found that if you're talking about data, just do the caps of the first word, and that's usually pretty clear. So date and time include time, yes. Default value, I want today's date and save. So now I have a new column in here with a poor time. I think I'll actually populate it. Again, to do that, open up the details, go down to, Okay, so this is an example of where you want to use that other screen to reorder the columns. So here, it's nice, and you can drag these around in this screen, but it doesn't change it in this form. You'd have to go into that gear, format list, and then order columns for the pour time to come up next to the pour in here. I'm never going to put it in this way, so I'm just going to find it and put it in for now. So just puts in now, and okay, good enough. We're going to test it way before we pour it, which is interesting, but that doesn't have any kind of validation on it, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, so now I have that column in here. What I can do now is I can go back in here and this item pour. Wait, what? We just put it in there. Where is it? We have to go back to data, and under this Rinka, so data is in the side here. If you expand it, it'll say data. This is the data source, but I have to go in and I have to hit refresh. Now it's going to read that data source again. Hopefully it'll find a new column. And now we can say pour. Oh, look at that, pour time. Boom. Now when we look at what our, let's see, I click this layers thing here to show the tree view that then shows the different elements. So in the browse screen, now I see the Rinker number, I see the pour number, and I see the date. And so as I populate this, I'll have it sorted by Rinker number, which is their project number, then pour, and then date. If you wanted it sorted only by date, that's where you would go up here and you would change this to, instead of Rinker job, you would choose date, and have to fix the other stuff. So we'll just leave it at that for now. All right, so now when I go into the details screen, I'm going to see those fields. Now notice the pour date is not in there because I added it later, but I can add it. If I expand on the details screen and then I expand on the details form, here's where it's showing all of those data cards, I guess it's calling it. And then the stuff that's up a level. So this is all in the form. If I click on the form, it shows me the outline of that form. And these pieces are outside of that form. So that's the icon for delete at the top, the icon for edit at the top, the icon for the back arrow. And those all have things that it's on select, it navigates back to the browse screen for the back. On the edit, on select, it goes edit form and then does this item. On delete, it removes this. So that's what all those different buttons are, but they're outside of this detail form. So if I click on the top here on this detail form, now I can go edit fields. So the first thing I want to do here is make sure it's in the right order. So I have the Rinker job, I have the pour number, I need the pour date, and then mix, and then the temps. And actually thinking about how they would maybe use this form in the field, probably the temps would come after the tests. So I'm going to put the temps at the bottom and all that test info after the mix. So first of all, let's add the field for the pour time, I guess it's called. Whoa, what just happened there? Edit fields, add field. There it is, I didn't see it before. So I'm going to add pour time. Now you'll notice that it, well, never mind, I'll come back to that. So I'm going to hit the 3 dots here and I'm going to move up. And again, maybe. Up. Move up. And you can see that this is quite tedious. So I have the Rinker job, the pour, the mix, pour time, oh, one more. Move up. So the pour, then the pour time, then what mix was poured. That seems right to me. I can shrink this up. This is the control type, is view this text. We don't want to do anything with it. We just want to show it in this particular screen. So now, like I said, I want all that other stuff in the middle, and I don't want to have to go move up, move up, move up for everything. So I'm just going to delete these. And maybe I wonder if I can delete them all at once. Boom, done. Okay, so now again, if I click on the form and I go edit fields and add field, this is what I'm going to say earlier. You'll notice that the order that you click on them is the order that they will show up. Took me a while to figure that out and a lot of frustrating move up, move up, move ups to get that done. So what do we want next? We want the time of the first test. So that's test time 1. And then let's see, if I was going to do this, I would do the temperature first. So that's test temp 1. And then I would do the unit weight. And then I would do the air. And then I would do the spread. Okay, so I'm going to add those just to prove that it does it in that order. And these are all views, so I'm just going to shrink them. I don't need to change anything there. So now I have the test time and then test temperature 1, unit weight 1, air 1, spread 1. Okay, so that's the first test. Now I want to do the second test. And I could probably put in, actually I could put in test. I should have named them test 1 and then I could sort them together. Okay, it's not going to show me test 1s because they're already in there. You don't want to put them in twice. It knows that. So again, time first, and then temp, and then air. No, unit weight first while I'm filling the pot, and then air, and then spread. And add. One thing that's worrying me though, oh, I did a filter number. Shrink those all down. Verify that's what I want. So test time 2, temp, unit weight, air, spread. Good. All right, so now I need those results after. So after we've hydrated and we're going back and putting in the temperatures. I'm kind of hesitating because I'm thinking maybe those need to be on a different form completely. Oh well, we'll put them in now. So yes, that doesn't matter. All that matters is the max. Okay, sorry, thinking this through. So I have up to 5 temperature probes I'm going to put in there and add. I'm also going to put in, I just saw the control. There's a control here for created by. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on the bottom. What I'd like to do with that field is I would like to, it's always part of the item in here. It might not show, it might show, but it might not. Yeah, it doesn't show, but if I did the show hide columns or I went into format the list and showed them, I could add that created by in here. It's already there, it's just not showing. But what I'm thinking is in this created by field on the edit screen, I could pull in the user info. So I'm logged in here. I'll be logged in when I'm using the app and it knows that. So I think I can make the default for this created by field my username or whoever's using the app's username. So maybe we'll work on that later. I hadn't planned on adding that. So now you notice there's a scroll bar on the side of this. Oh, it defaulted by that. That's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. I put this information in the list. Of course, it's in there. But there's a scroll bar now, where before there was not a scroll bar. That's the beauty of adding things this way to this kind of form, is it just kind of knows what to do. It's nice. What's unfortunate is you would think that if The detail screen has this stuff. You would want the edit screen to mirror it, but you notice that it doesn't. So we have to do exactly the same thing again. Maybe it's possible to copy the form. Never tried to do that, but it's fast enough to do here. I will just go in and delete these again. Did it over here kind of globally, didn't I? So I clicked it, I control click, right click, delete. And somehow I missed this one. And then I'm going to come back to the form and edit fields and add field, and I'm looking for time of the pour. And then I'm going to move that. Well, I can move that up one or move this down one, either way. I have pour time, mix. I went into test, didn't I? Go back and look here. Pour time, mix, yep, test time 1, and then the stuff. So same thing here. Add fields, add field. So test time 1, temperature 1, unit weight 1, air 1, and then time 2, temp 2, unit weight 2, air 2, spread 2. I missed spread 1, or I unclicked it at some point. So I'm just going to add those, and then I'll put in spread 1 in there. It's the one I think I missed. Just shrink all these. Notice now the control type is edit because we're in the edit screen and it knows that. So it makes it pretty easy. So right there is where I want that test spread to. I don't think it matters if I click this first and then say add field. Or spread 1. Yeah, it puts it at the bottom anyway. So I can just move up. I can make sure I keep track of which one I'm moving up. Air 1, spread 1. Yeah, so that's in the right order now. And that will show up in the right order over here. You notice we have some, oh, that's interesting. Test time 2 is a different style than test time 1. And pour time. I must not have chosen the date and time or include time format on that test time 2. So let's go ahead and save this so that we don't lose where we got so far. See if it barks at me. You'll see the icon until the save icon comes back. And now go, what was that, test time 2, right? Whoa, where'd I go? Test temp 2, test time 1, test time 2, column settings, edit. Include time? No. We want yes. So let's change that. It'll save it automatically and go back to Power Apps, and then back to data and refresh. No idea if this will change. Test time 2 did not change. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete it from here. I'm just looking to see what the different options are. I thought maybe there's I'm sure there's a way to change it in the properties, but instead I'm going to do it the way I know how to do it and just go edit fields. Test time 2, I'm going to delete, and I'm going to add it back in. Test time 2 came back in the same way it was before. Delete it again, then I'm going to go try and refresh. I'm on the edit screen, edit form, edit field, add field. Okay, it's not getting it. It's not picking it up. So my course of actions now are one of two things. I can either click into this test time 1 data card, and here it has all of these things. I can look over here on these properties and see what all the options are and copy it to this one. Or probably the easiest way actually is to delete it off of all 3 of these pages, all 2 of these pages. There's the edit page and the what's it called? Display page, detailed page. I could delete it off of both of those. I could delete it out of my list. I could make a new column and name it, and then put it back in. So either way is fine. I'm not going to do either right now for this demo. If you're following along, you'll do it right because you'll see my error. Okay. So that gives me my app, and I can go into, oh, there's one more piece. On the edit screen, edit form, I did not put a created by. So let's do that. Edit fields, created by, add. Okay. And so then what is the default for that one? This item created by. Well, we'll see how it works. I will probably have to look up how to format the code in what field to get that to pull in from my user, but it's all in there somewhere. Oh, so I didn't tell you what I'm doing here. I hit the little play button here. That's one way to do it. You can also hit F5. And then you can choose what you want to look at it on. I want to look at it on an iPhone SE 2nd generation because that's what most of my inspectors have. So now I can play with it just like it's an app on the phone. I'm going to hit X here and get back. Or was that delete? I don't like that. I would change that so that I don't accidentally delete it. Where's the back? Those that don't appear to be doing anything. That's interesting. I'm going to hit X. I'm going to go back into the app out here, maybe the browse screen, and then hit play. Okay, so in the browse screen, I can click on the item and it opens the item. I can click on back from the details screen and it goes back. I can't really, I guess I could refresh my list, but there's only one on the list. I could change the direction, but there's only one on the list. I can add a new one. So let's see if that button works. So adding a new one does take me to the blank page. And Xing out goes back to here. So that seems to work there. Let me do that one more time. Go create a new item. And then I'm just going to put in some junk data. Or one. Oh, this doesn't put the current time in, so we'll have to work on getting that done. Oh, one thing I don't like about their calendar display thing is you have to hit OK when you're done instead of just clicking the date. You have to hit OK. again, on the time, I'm gonna have to do the same thing. Pick it, okay, pick it. Test temp, 85 degrees, it weighs 146 grams. Kilograms, grams, must be grams. 1.2, I think it was what the air was. Oh, I just hit the tab and it went down to temp 2. So there's a tab order that you can select so that when you hit tab, it goes to the next one. So that definitely needs fixed there. Spread is, say, 20.5 inches. All right. And then I do like the tab where you're done with spread 1 and it goes to the time 2, which should be here, but so we'll have to work on those tab orders. And then created by, I can't even click in here, can't do anything. So we'll have to figure out what that formula is. But it looks like we can add one and then hit yes to confirm it. Now it adds that list item. And so it's showing this new one first because it's sorted by those first few digits. You could also turn that around and have it show that, or you could recode it so it sorts by date, which is probably what I'm thinking that the user would want rather than the job number. Unless their job numbers are sequential and then they could turn it backwards, they might like that better. So this search box right now is set up to look in this job number. So if I was going to look for job number 17, what is that? It's very small on my screen. 1723191. I could put in here 231 and it doesn't find anything. The reason is it's looking for the first characters of that job number. So that would be 17. So it's filtering it down by that. That is certainly changeable, but Power Apps doesn't use the contain feature. So it's very much more difficult than just instead of first typing in contains. You can't do that. And there's a lot of people on the web that have proposed a lot of different workarounds for that, but that's a huge flaw, in my opinion, in the way this thing works. So again, you can see what happens, like if you would turn your screen, what that would look like. If you would use it on an iPad, what that would look like. Again, I find that the iPhone 6e not only or SE is not only what we use, but it is also the smallest of the screens. So if it works on this, then it should work on everything else. And then this is what it looks like in the browser. So in your browser, it would just look like it. So those are those. Let's see, we wanted to look at, let's look at the details page now here. This is where the one with the buttons didn't work at first. So let's see if it works now. It does. But that one does anyway. And then the edit. Yep, I can edit it. Let's say I put in the wrong date and it was really yesterday. And save. Okay, that changed it back. So what I think had happened before is I came in on the edit screen, but it didn't really know like how to associate that. Whatever this does, it didn't know how to get from wherever I was back to that. So I think it's working now. So this is my junk data. I'm just going to delete it. I do like the trash can rather than the X. I think X is to close then, not delete, and check mark is to save it. So if I change this to 192 and click check, it would save it. If I click X, it'll still be 191. That makes sense. Userability. All right, so just like that, I have an app. My original intent, though, was to make an app that created a report. All this does now is create a new list item. Let's do that, sorry. I shouldn't have deleted that last one. I'm just gonna put in some really junk data. I'm expecting a like save button at the bottom, but there isn't one. So we can put one. All right, so couple different ways we can use this now. We can put in our data here and we can click into it and we can go down here and hit report. If we want it to function that way, we could put a button in. So we're putting the data in, we directly hit report instead of having to go in later and do it. If we're on here and we do edit, we'd be back on that same edit screen. I'm not sure you want to go into edit and then hit the report, but I'm also not sure if you did a new one, it takes you back to this page. You'd have to click back into it to hit report. Not sure how I want that to work. Oh, it did put in my created by here. So this was the last one I did. I did it in the app and it put the created by in there. So I don't have to have it on my edit screen. Let's fix that first. Maybe my back mind will then be figuring out how to where I want the report button at. So, all right, this created by data card at the bottom of this one here, I want that to be invisible. Like I said, when I was in there, I couldn't really click into it and do anything. So let's go in here and turn visible off. So now it doesn't even show, but it does it. When I'm creating the item, it populates it. So that should work. All right, so next step, I need to make a button. Where do I want that button to be? Let's go ahead and just put it in the detail screen, not in the edit screen. I don't know. We can always do it different later. So now in this form is the size of this box here and it expands to fill whatever. So a couple different things I can do is I could shrink this so there's not as much data on here, and then there's buttons at the bottom. So the buttons will always be visible no matter where you're at in the data. Or I could put the buttons in the form so that when you get to the bottom of the form, the buttons show up. Again, I'm having trouble, I guess, making a decision here, but so one of the things I'm going to do is return whether a report has been requested or a report has been created. If a report has been created, I want to just click right into the report. So I think I want to do that outside of this box of data. So let's just shrink this up. And so this is the detailed form, and then these are the other pieces on here. So if I want to add and make a button, and let's say that button is create report. And then thinking this through, maybe I want another button that is whoop, that didn't work. Review report. Now over here, I actually want it to have a couple pieces of data coming back. One says report requested, so it's like once you touch it, you know that it's doing something. And the other is report created. Report requested, report created, and then based on the values of that, we can have it either hide it or not hide it. So let's try and figure out how to do that. Insert. So that wouldn't be an input, that would be a these called down here. Data card. So notice that the input field, or what was that called? Edit fields is not available here. I believe that's because it's not a form. It's not in the form. But I think we can still do it. No, we can still do it. So we want to insert, we want to add, oh, this is adding data like a new data source. I think we just want like a text label. Edit form text label. I think we want text label. Let's try that. All right, and then for this text, what do we call that? Report. So if you just start typing in stuff, sometimes it knows what to do. That doesn't seem to be the case here. I'm just going to put text back in there. So let's see if we can go back to the browse screen and see what it did. So it's a little edit pencil on a piece of paper box. And it says this item dot pour under text. So let's try and emulate that. Let's check. First of all, it is the same little icon here, so that's correct. Text is a function. This item dot record. Function category is text. Let's double check that. Function category is text. Oh, interesting. It doesn't show this item. Oh, it doesn't show it in here either. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. So this item, ranker job, if I drop that down, this item is not an option, but it does work. So let's just take this whole thing. Into here. Paste it in. And it still doesn't work. So apparently this data source is not connected to either this page or this. Was this in a form? Browse gallery. It's not in a form, it's just a text box. So these things are so easy to make until you come up with one of these type things, and then it's like, there goes an hour. All right, so what if we do add data? So all of these do come from that same place, but how does it know? Mixed data. So there's a value and the key. Explaining just parent default. Parent dash display name. So the parent is the mix, no, the detail form. And that's using this. Okay, maybe this is the key here then. Now I can't remember where I was at. It was at the top. Okay. But not in the form, just the label. Okay. So we still have that selected. There it is. I could edit it up here in the formula bar, I guess. Oh, look, now it just suggested that. Where was that? Somehow I just hovered over something and it suggested the whole @ranker thing. Huh. So I'm referring to the data source now. There's an error in the formula, try to buy some formula. Data type table. Okay. So I'm saying the table dot this item, whatever item I'm on, dot ranker job. And does that work? No. It's not showing me an error up here. Means this item is not recognized because it's not underneath here in the form. Well, I hope whoever's watching along is just like, it's this, and fast forwards. So if this is a key, that should show up, but it doesn't like that either. What if I took this and moved it inside the form? So inside the form, I'm going to add or insert a text label. Now this is inside the form, it can't go, well, it can go outside the form. Well, I don't know. Where did it go now? Oh, I moved it out. I drug it out. Didn't know you could do that either. Well, in that case, let's take out, delete label 1 or 2, take label 1 and just drag it in the form. No, it doesn't want to do that. How about this? No, it's still outside. It's easy. That one I put outside the form. Oh, I don't want to be in the card. Okay, maybe that's the problem. Nope, that's not the problem. Okay, here's one way I can do it. I can click on the form and edit fields, add field, and pick those two things. Report requested and report created. I'll add them to the bottom. Now, can I thinking through again if I should put these buttons inside, if I even can put them inside. So I have detail form selected and create a button. Now it puts it on the outside. So I guess what I was thinking here is I can take this, I can unlock the data card and I can make it say instead of off that maybe you don't have to unlock it. It's like a display when false, display when true. Data source info, comma, data source info dot display name, comma, report requested. Data field is just report requested. So here, if I unlock, Somewhere there's a way that you can override it for the yes, no. Hmm. Well, I guess I better do some more research and come back to this video once I figure out how to make it connected. How to make it do what I want to do here. Um, hmm. My dog's having bad dreams about not getting fed. Display mode is view. Hmm. Well, there's a way that you can say if false, quote this, if true, quote this, and make that get rid of the label here and get rid of the label there. Well, you could even use a label. No, I wouldn't. I'd get rid of them and I would just have it say report has been requested and report has been created. And maybe even make the flow change that so that so when you click create report, it fills in that box and then says report has been requested until it has been created, and then that will go back to being invisible or something. So that's the direction I'm going to take, but I'll have to do a little more research on how to do that. On these buttons, what we're going to do is the on select. Instead of false, we're going to say on select. We want to run this flow. To do that, we have to create the flows first. And let's go ahead and do that now. So here I'm in Power Apps. I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, it's already saved. We're in Power Apps. So the way most Power Apps demos would show you how to do it is to go into Power Automate and create a new flow. When you do that inside of here, it makes it very difficult to like change some things that you may want to change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create it on the outside using an outside trigger, and then I'm going to come in here and add it. Once I add it, I'll be able to use the term, what's it called, run. Oh, it won't show until I've added it, but there's a syntax for running that flow, but you have to put it in here, added it first. So to get over to Power Automate from either of these, you just click the waffle and either choose Power Automate, or you'll choose all app. If you don't see it, you'll choose all apps and then select Power Automate. That'll open up another browser window with Power Automate. So if I can open this up here and see all the words, or I can close it, but I'm going to create a flow here. And I want this to be an automated cloud flow. So when something gets entered as a new item in my list, it triggers this flow. Well, technically, when the report button is clicked, I want it to trigger the flow. So I want it to watch for new or changed items. So I can either start out with that, or I can start out with an instant cloud flow and just click the button and make it run. But then I have to tell it which piece of data I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the automated cloud flow. So here's when an item is created. That's almost what we want. If we wanted to run a report every time, that's what we would use. Because of the way we're doing it with the button to create the report, we're going to say when an item is created or modified. And the reason I want to do that, just to be specific, is when we're in that app, we're going to enter some information sometime and then come back to it and enter more information another time. And then when we're done with all of it, that's when we want to hit the report. So it'll be created with the first information, but then it'll be modified after that. So we're going to look for created or modified. And then let's add a name to it. What did we call the other one? Rinker pour. or data. I say report maybe. So the trigger will be when an item is created or modified in such and such list. So I'm making everything in my District 1 materials SharePoint address under the list name Rinker Poor Data. And I wish Flow was smart enough to remember that for all of these cards, but it won't. You can limit columns by view, like you can make a special view in your list that only has certain columns so it doesn't pull anything in except the report requested. We're going to do a little differently. So that's the trigger every time it's created or modified. Now we need to get those modifications. That's not it. Just go SharePoint first. And then we can look for item. The get changes for an item or file. Properties only. Get files, get file properties. We want to get the changes. See if that will work for us. Again, I wish once you chose this up front, it would default to this, but it doesn't. So every card, you'll have to choose it. I make sure I got poor data and not data test. Yep. Okay. So the ID that you want to fetch the changes for is the ID from the trigger. So when an item is created or modified trigger, we want that ID. And then since trigger window since is required. So I just want since the modification date. So if I go when an item is created or modified, there should be a modification date. Wow. Search within that for mod. When the item was last changed. I thought it would have date there. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get the changes from that trigger on that date. And now we need to do a control. And that is to check to see if in those get changes, has the reported, that's what we're looking for. In the changes, has the column changed report created or report requested? So what this flow is doing is it's looking to see if the report has been requested. So if it has been requested, I just clicked it. So it has been requested is equal to, well, this is a little tricky. So in the list, it says yes or no, but it might return true or false. It might return on or off. We're just going to go with it and see what happens here. So has the column report requested equal to yes? If it is, then we're going to do something. If it's not, we don't want to do anything because it could change because they put the error content in and we don't want to do anything then. So if it has, what do we want to do? We want to get, so here we got the changes. Here we want to actually get the item. So get items, nope, we want to get the item. What item do we want to get? Well, same site address, same list name. And the ID off of the original trigger. Okay, so now we'll have all of those, the data from each of those fields in this flow. So the next thing we need to do is we need to open, because we're creating a report here. So actually, let's do this. Rename this one to say, I always leave the card name at the beginning in case somebody's trying to copy a flow that I've done, or I'm trying to copy a flow I've done. I can know what to search for. So the condition is, and this is my language now, has a report been requested? And that's equal to yes. And so you may want to do another condition here that says, okay, go and look and see if this report's already been created. And if it has, delete it. If you want to keep multiple versions of your report, if they get requested over and over again, then you might want to just dynamically name it so that it's adding, to the appending to the end. But if you ever try and create one with the same file name as another one, you'll get an error. All right, so we got this data. Now we need to put it into the Word file. So to do that, we have to get the Word file. And to do that, we have to make the Word file. So this is where, if you had the premium connectors, you would just go into add action and you would say populate, populate a Word document. And notice that the account I'm in, whoa. So the account that I'm in doesn't have premium connectors. I thought. Maybe they put it on my account too. Well, I'll demo it as if you had premium connectors, and then I'll take it out. So populate a Word document. It's asking where this Word document is. This gets a little weird because it's not in a group, so you got to be careful here. I'm just going to type in materials. There's also a SharePoint site for D1 materials, but the one I want is team, I think. Yeah, that's where it gets weird. It is District 1. Okay, I remember now. It's typed out District 1 materials because I usually type in district at this point instead of materials to get it. So a SharePoint site gets built automatically with your SharePoint team in Teams. I have no idea what this one is. This must have been created by our IT people to have SharePoint sites for everybody. I don't know. And then this is a group. I don't know. Anyway, I happen to know through trial and error that this is the one I want. And if I clicked on there and then tried to find the document library and it didn't exist, I knew I had the wrong one. You could get really messed up if you didn't understand that there are differences there. What's this called? Rinker test data, right? Oh, my document library. I have not created a document library for this yet. For right now, I'm just going to use my demo document library, and I'm going to just pick a Word file. Now this is pointing directly to this file. This is my demo report file. Now, because I don't have the Word file set up correctly for what I'm doing here, it's saying, this doesn't make any sense. If I had that set up, it would list all those fields down here, and then I could just say, Rinker job number is Rinker job. Pour time is pour time. Mix is mix. And it would put those in that Word document. And that's why this is so powerful if you have premium connectors. Again, I'm going to show you how to do it without premium connectors. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm not going to mess with the making it work so that I can show you that it works. Again, we're back to the place where we're getting the item, and I'll just rename that as well here. So we're getting item. So data from, what do we call that? Changes for an item. Data from item that changed. Because once you get, if you use several get items or several create files, it starts to get confusing when you're in your dynamic data. Okay, so again, if I don't have premium connectors, now what I need to do is I need to get the contents of a Word file, and I need to populate that Word file with this data, and then I need to save that Word file. After I save that Word file, then I can convert it into a PDF file. And after I convert it into a PDF file, I can save it back to the document library or do whatever the heck else I want to do with it, like email it. So those steps are next. So let's go into Word. Well, no, I need a document library to keep these reports in. So I go back to my SharePoint site and I'm going to duplicate this tab. The reason I'm going to do that is because I need to reference these column names when I make my document library. And this is a little gooey, so bear with me. So if I go into site contents and new document library, I'm going to type in Rinker for data report library. The reason I'm going to name it so specifically is because I'm using Rinker Poor Data in a lot of different places here. And I just want to, as I'm selecting stuff, make sure I'm in the right spot. I don't want to show over in the right side, and I do want to create it. All right, so now we have this new document library that we're going to start using for these reports. What I want to do next is I want to go up into the gears and library settings and more library settings. And for the columns, I want to add columns from existing site columns because I want to use all of these same columns for my document library. Because unfortunately, doing it this cheap non-premium way, it pulls it from the columns in the document library. But we want to keep the list items where we actually keep the good data. So create from existing site columns. It's been a long time since I've done this, so we'll hope. Select site columns for all groups. That doesn't make any sense to me. Select which site columns to add to this list. Okay, so I think these are all the columns out of all of the lists. So what do we know? We know poor, right? Let's see if poor is in there. Not. Well, we're not going to get lucky. I thought that these would be columns from lists, but it must be columns from other document libraries. And I'll just go back to make sure there's no other selections. Can't tell if it's thinking. It is thinking. Wow. Who knew canceling was so hard? Okay, so create column. So I guess I'm gonna have to do it the hard way because this is what I chose before. Add from existing columns. Okay. Let's just do it back from the native list, or sorry, a document library instead of from inside of that. I think that'll be easier. So I want to add a column, and just so that it shows correctly on the video, let me come side by side here. So I'm going to add a column that is text. And that column, this is going to be the Rinker job number. I want to make sure that there's no, I think this is called title. Maybe I better go check that. Like, library settings, more library settings. Yeah, see, title is actually the name of the file, I think. So create a modified title description. I think that's the title column, so I don't want to use title again. So I'll just have to remember when I'm populating these that title is a Rinker job number. Okay. And I want to get rid of the spaces, I guess. Because we're not using this for humans, we're using this for the machine. Single line text. And I'm going to go into this list settings. And I'm going to try and just make a mental note here. So Rinker job is a single line of text. The pour is a number, mix is a single line of text. The rest of these are numbers except the date and times. And then these don't matter. And report requested and created. Actually, I'm just going to leave these open because it shows it nicely to me in a column format instead of the rows. All right, so I got Rinker job number over here. That's actually Rinker job here, so maybe I will change that. I'm going to add a column for pour, and that is a number. And column for single line of text, also known as text mix. And column for max temp. You see why it is so much easier to do this from an Excel sheet. But you can't make, that I know of, make a document library columns from an Excel sheet. So the first number is, over here, max temp 1. Going to be 0 decimal places here. I wonder if there's a duplicate column. Let's see that. Number. Okay, test time 1 and 2. Remember to include time. And then unit weight 1 and 2 are numbers. Spelled out. Oh, it's test. Unit. Weight. 1. Is a number, and that would maybe have a decimal. Unit weight 2. So spread 1, spread 2, temp 1, temp 2. We're a ways away. I think they ever use a decimal and spread. Well, one thing to consider when you're doing this way without the premium connector is that every one of these fields has to have something in it. It can't be blank. And we'll handle that inside of I think we'll handle that inside of the list by making a default value of like a dash or something is what I usually do. Test temperature 0. It's just so boring, my brain's going other places. I think in Power Automate, actually, we can. No, it needs to be in the list. Test temps, test air 1 and 2. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. That'll definitely have a decimal place. Okay, so over here, oh wait, do we need the report created, report requested here? No, because we're gonna write that back to the list. Oh, I missed 4 time though, didn't I? Well, just like I did before, 4 time. And that is a date time, right? Yep. Good. Don't need them. We have test air 2, test air 1, test temp 2, test temp 1, test spread 2, test spread 1, test unit weight 1, test unit weight 2, test time 2, test time 1, max temps 5 through 1, and mix and pour and rinker job. Now, just to make double sure here, if I go into settings and library settings and more library settings, I should be able to look at the same list side by side. And this I'm doing only to make sure that the types are the same. So single line of text, 4 is a number. Rinker job, single line of text. Oh, I have description title at the top over here. Okay. So rinker job, single line of text, number, mix is single line of text, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers, date and time, number down to pour time, it's a date and time. The yes, nos we didn't do. I think we're good. Wow, that was fun, huh? Okay, so now we have the document library with nothing in it. I am going to just go new Word document. I'm going to name it. I might be able someday to name it. And I'm going to say, what do we call everything else here? Rinker pour data. And I'm going to call it report. And then I'm going to call it, okay, so what I'm thinking through here is if I call it report, then I can use the same file name and just add to it. So I can say report and then for the job number and whatever. But if I call it a template, then it's clear that this is the template file. Choices. I'm just going to put an underscore in there. That's going to be my compromise, I guess. All right, and so let's get rid of this other window that we don't need anymore. And now I'm in Word, I'm in a blank Word file, and I'm just going to say, this is a super fancy report. And on, I don't know, date, we poured, see, let me start over. For project, on the number, so that would be like on the, oh wait, on for project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on pour number 4, we had, let's say at for time, we had the following results. And then we can just put in test 1. We could make like a table here or something, but let's just say that for test 1, we had time and temp and unit and air. And what else do? We do one more thing, right? Spread. Gonna really be hard for me to not like spend the time to format and do something that looks a little bit better than this, but it just doesn't make any difference. So don't do it. All right. Let's just copy this again down here and say test 2. And then here I'm going to say breaks. No. Hydration temperatures. Breaks is a different thing. One, 2. I think this is all of our data. I know I need to use the copy paste command more. I'm just making sure there's 2 spaces after every colon here. It doesn't at all matter. It's just the OCD thing. All right. So next, what we want to do is, this is saved because we made it in a document library in SharePoint. Every time we touch the screen or touch the keyboard, it makes us save. We're going to go edit, open in desktop app. Yes, I want to open it in Word because you can't do this next step unless you're in the desktop app. Now, the reason that we made all of those columns first is now we can go in under Insert and go over to Quick Parts, down to Document Property, and look what it is here. So, for project, we want that to be the Rinker number. And it puts it in there and it names it. On pour, we want that to be the pour number. At, and I think it is very, very, very clear by now why the premium connector is the cat's meow for this. Because you wouldn't have to create all those columns in the document library. You wouldn't even have to create the document library. And then instead of going through, I'm sorry, you still would have to do this part. I'm distracting myself. You would still have to put some names in here, but they wouldn't have to exactly match, because when you opened it up in Power Automate, it would show you the fields in here and you could map them to the other fields that you want to use. All right, so test one time. And temp for 1. Unit weight 1. Unit weight, nope, not unit weight 2. Doing it in a different order now. Air 1, and then spread 1. Spread 1. All right. Second verse, same as the first. Test time 2. test temp 2. Test unit weight 2. Test air 2. Test spread 2. All right, 5 more pieces. What are these called? Max temp 1. Temp 2. Four, 5. All right, so now I have my template document with the places that stuff gets put in there. I'm in SharePoint document library, so it is saved. I just hit exit. And I could continue here if I want to. And it can update with those fields. Ba-bam. And I can close it. All right, if you recall, we were back in Power Automate and we had got all the data using the get item card. Now we need to get the file that we just created. And this is a little bit confusing. So in SharePoint, we want to get file. So you can get file metadata, you can get using path, get file metadata, get file properties, get files. That'll return a matrix of all the files in the document library. What we want is file content. Well, we want file content, but we don't have an ID yet. So we're going to use file content using path. So there, I'm going to pick my materials, document library, and then under path, I'm going to click the folder and I'm going to navigate to the new document library we just made right there. I'm going to expand that over and choose the file path. So this gets me the content of that Word document. So that's step 1. So let's rename it. Word template. So now that we have it, we're going to create a new file. And there also is a copy file function that seems like it would be great because you could copy it from the template into a new file, but it doesn't work inside the same document library. So we don't want to create an item, that's for a list. We want to create a file. And where do we want to create it? Guess what? Same place. So folder path, we're going to actually just point it to the same spot. And then for the file name, let's use this. Oh, I thought it would show the file name in the get file content. Okay, well, we'll use whatever we want then. So we'll say Rinker for data report underscore, and now we're going to put some dynamic data in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose clear back at the beginning when the report was requested. There was oh wait, that was modified. Didn't it just say whoa, modified when the item was last changed. So that'll say Rinker pour data report underscore and then this date. Well, maybe I also want to include the Rinker job number. Maybe I want the pour number. Let's do that. Let's start with the Rinker job number, and then another underscore, and then the pour number. And that's down here because I put it in pour, and then so if we used pour time and they redid a report for the same pour, that would give us a problem. So we want to use the date or the date time and modified. So now the file name will say Rinker pour data report for 171923 pour 4 and on this date. That's the date it was modified, not the date it was poured, but that'll be clear on the report itself. So what's the file content that we're going to put in here? We're going to use the get file, the file content from this get file content of the template. Okay, so this will create a new file, but all those columns that we made will be empty. So the next action, once that file is created, is to update the file properties. Under SharePoint, you need to get used to typing SharePoint first and then update, and then it would show up. Same library, same site, sorry. And then the library name, this is going to be under the Rinker or data report library because it's this file. Oh, let me rename that real quick. Create file report for this for. All right. So then the ID is the ID for the file that we just created right here, the report for this pour. Those are the file properties we're going to update, and we're going to update them with this dynamic content from, I wish you could shrink these down. So we got the item data that was changed when an item is created. Okay, so that's not it. Get changes, that's not it. Which one is it? When an item is created or modified, then we got the item. We got the data from the item that was changed. Oh, that was not a very good name, but that's what I'm looking for. So from now on, all of these things are going to be populated with that get item data from item that is changed. So Rinker job number 4. Guided item that was changed, mix. That was changed, temp. And that was temp 1. Oops, I didn't mean to type temp over there. Search for temp 2. This is the temp, not the max temp. Okay. Okay, let's test it. One thing that I bumped into the other day is I accidentally made this screen too small. Let me see if I can do this again. Never seen this before, and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. See if I can get it to work. The answer is no. It's too bad. Wish I would have paid more attention to how I did it. So it showed all of those. Oh yeah, like that. It showed them all in little buttons. So test time 1 from. Now I gotta get file content using path. Get changes. Gotta remember data from item that changed. Get item. Yeah, that's the one we wanted. And so we're on test time 1. Not sure this is any easier actually. Test temp. Oh, they're up here. Test time 1. Yeah, that's not any easier. Oh, my brain doesn't like to do tedious work. Apologize for me being all over the place here. Just did it again. Oh, oh my gosh. I don't know what description is. That must just come in automatically. Okay, so now I'm updating all those file properties on that file that we created. So let's rename that. Um, I hope that's clear enough. So we're taking all of those pieces of data we collected with the app as data in the list that we made, and we're bringing it in and assigning them to the columns in the document library. So now we have that new file that is the report that has all the stuff in it, and we have the all the columns assigned to it based on what's in the list. Okay, so now that has created the file and updated those file properties. So now is where we use the OneDrive connector. OneDrive or OneDrive for Business. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. And so we're going to take the path. Can we use the ID? Make the file name with the file content. Oh, this is the OneDrive path. So I'm just going to put it in the root, and the file name, I always just use test, whatever, or temp, sorry, temp report dot docx. It has to be a docx. And then the content, because we created this file and then we changed the properties on it, we can't use the content from this. We have to get new content. So we're gonna do the same thing again. See that premium connector value right there? In SharePoint, we're gonna do a get file contents. But now instead of using path, we're just saying gonna go get file content. We're gonna choose the choose the address, and then we're going to use that identifier from that create file. So we're pointing it back to it. It changes, create file, report for this pour. Oh, that's the item ID. We need the actual ID, unique ID of the file or folder. So that's the create file report for this pour. Okay. So we got that. And now we are going to use that content that we got there, and we're going to create a file in OneDrive. So the get file content, I should have renamed it, but it's going to get that. And then once I have it, I'm going to use the action for OneDrive. To convert file. And that is this one. So what's the unique file to convert? Well, the one I just made. And then what is my target? It's a PDF. Okay, once I've converted that file, I need to save it, right? So this time I want to save it in SharePoint. So create file. Again, same deal. Wish you could remember. Now I want to point to that library. Report data, report library. And then for the file name, I want to use the same file name as my original report file. I'm just going to narrow this down to name. So this is the data that changed, report for this pour. There's the name. Sometimes you see name with extension. In this case, we don't want that because we want just the PDF. So what is this one? This is the update file properties name. I think we want the display name because I think this would have the extension. And so we're going to put PDF on the end. So the file system knows what the kind of a file it is. And then for file content, we're going to say the file content out of that create file or convert file. All right, and we're going to stop here and we're going to run the thing because the next step under here will be a choice. Like if you want to send it as an email, you can add a card to do that. If you want to do this, do that. So we're just going to save it right here. First of all, see if it even works. While it's saving, I'm going to pop over to our actual list. Where was that? It's been a long path here. List is Rinker for data, right? So here is my list. And I had made no provision yet in the app to change this to request the report. So I'm going to change it in here after I start the flow. Okay, I didn't like something. Usually it tells you what it doesn't like. Item in path or type string. String date time is not convertible to time type format of double. So somewhere I got that type of date and type of string mixed up. So I'm going to have to go through and figure that out. Um, but I will pause here and get something to drink and clear my head and then pick up after this.